For many people, the only interaction they have with police are at difficult times in their lives, whether it be an accident or a sudden death, a difficulty within their family, and it can be at a very distressful times, very troubling times. So to be able to engage and get to know an officer and get to learn a little bit of an officer and get to see that personal side of them can put them at ease when you have to go deal with them at those trying times. So I wanted to expand on this success to a patrol point of view. People had great interest in what we were doing in the comm center, but now I wanted them to see what it was like, sort of real-time policing in Ottawa. So I hooked up with Sergeant Ian Pidcock, and we got our phones and our extra batteries, and we went out to do another live tweet session. So people really enjoyed getting an inside look. They enjoyed learning that the seats in the back of the cars are removable, and they can be used as a flotation device if we have to get somebody from the water. We got to show them what the gear in the trunk looks like, what the inside of the car looks like. Normally, it's cops or bad guys that see that view in the car. Some great, really good conversations came out of it, and people were really comfortable asking those questions. I remember at one point, I had tweeted out a picture of my saddlebags in my motorcycle and the contents that were in them, and it led to a 5-minute engagement with various people about the importance of sunscreen and the SPF factors when they saw the sunscreen in my saddlebags. And people loved hearing my stories of traffic enforcement. When you see that goofball blaring down you, passing you on the highway, spraying on your windshield and driving like a maniac, and you get further on down the highway and you see he's been pulled over, and you see that sense of justice and satisfaction, I get to deliver that virtually. Or the story of the guy and the old beat-up pickup truck speeding down the rural roads, and when we pull him over, he's got Celine Dion just blaring from his windows. And we got to the point where we're eating sandwiches in our car, and we're trading jokes with people and talking about these sandwiches we're eating in the car, and people are having fun with it and not realizing this, the types of things you have to do. When you don't have any time, you grab a bite on the road. So it's very lighthearted at times, but our next call that night was to check on the conditions of a person, which is a common call we get when people can't get in touch with a loved one, is they'll get us to go and check and see what's going on. On this particular night, it was a daughter who normally FaceTimes with her mother, and when we got to the scene, we knocked on the door and eventually gained entrance to the apartment. And unfortunately, she had passed away with the iPad next to her as she was preparing for this FaceTime with her daughter. So a very difficult and challenging situation, but it's the nature of what we do. So we went from talking about eating sandwiches in the car and that lighthearted conversation to coming back. There was a long pause while we dealt with that call, to me revealing what we had just, the type of call we had just gone on. And so Sergeant Pidcock and I talked about length about putting out this information. We wanted to be respectful. We didn't want to invade privacy, but we wanted to give people a picture of what we do and what we encounter, and those types of things that we come across. So it was a long conversation. We did come up with a tweet that I put out finally. It was that just come from the scene of a sudden death, a difficult call to handle, but a fact of the job we do, and now we head on to our next call. And you could really sense this sort of collective gasp on Twitter as people sort of took this in. We went directly to another call, which happened to be, I believe, youth drinking in a park, and had to deal with kids that were not cooperative and arguing about knowing their rights and stuff, and we had just come from the sudden death call. And that's something you don't often see painted in the media. Is you see the one incident, the story about the one robbery or the one accident, the one shoplifting incident. You don't see that collection of what an officer deals with, the different types of calls leading up to that incident and the different ones that they go to after. So I thought that was very valuable that we were able to put out that type of thing and invite people to give their observations on it.